Hi, this is a quick video to cover how to activate your license within your FusionAuth deployment. Activating your license is important because it does give you access to a bunch of functionality that is reserved for customers that are paying for a license. What I've got here is a simple setup. I have no users created. I'm going to make my first user. I'm in the admin UI. I'm going to click on Reactor, and I need to find my license key. To do that, I'm going to go to account.fusionauth.io. When I go to account.fusionauth.io, I'll enter my credentials and I'll be placed on the home screen. You can see here I'm an enterprise customer. I work for the FusionAuth documentation company. It's well regarded on the stock market. Look us up. But where I want to click here is click on Plan. And I'm going to have a bunch of licenses. Depending on who you are, they might look a little different. I'm going to cover the most common case, and then later in the video, cover a couple edge cases of licensing that you might have with FusionAuth. So here we are. We have a production ID and a non-production ID, and this license does not have advanced threat detection enabled. I'm going to cover three things here. What is a production ID, what's a non-production ID, and what is advanced threat detection? A production ID is used for any system that has MAU or monthly active users. So these are your production systems running your app, your workloads that you're using FusionAuth to log your users in with. Non-production systems are things like QAT systems, stage, dev, lower environments, CI/CD. You can have as many instances or deployments of FusionAuth as you want. You just want to make sure you activate the appropriate license type, non-production or production, on each system. So that's covering that aspect. The other aspect to cover is this idea of advanced threat detection. If you have this included in your license, and not everyone will, but if you do, you'll see it as a checkbox here. Most folks will have just this here, and it means that it's not enabled, so there's nothing you need to worry about there. If it is enabled, the big takeaway for you is that you'll want to make sure that you've allocated enough memory on the deployment that you're activating a license with threat detection on it. The reason is a threat detection license will grab IP information to do some calculations around threat modeling and impossible travel, and that requires additional system resources. In fact, you need 2 gigabytes of heap space. It's recommended to have 3, and it is covered in our system requirements documentation right here. So if you do have advanced threat detection and you do want to use a license with advanced threat detection enabled, the recommendation would be to have the appropriate memory allocated on the deployment you're going to do that with. The last case is you could have an air-gapped license, and in that case, you'll see a license text. There's a lot more information here. I don't want to cover that too much, but just know that if you have air-gapped, you're going to have this to copy for production, and you'll also copy in this text as well, which correlates to clicking on this button and dropping in that second text value. Most folks won't have that configuration. It's very edge cases that do make use of an air-gapped license configuration. Most commonly, we'll see a standard license like this, or we'll see a license with threat detection. So without further ado, I'm going to activate my license. And I'm going to have one that has no threat detection on it, and I'm going to activate it for non-production. So I'm just going to copy that here. I'm going to click on here, I'm not air gapping, and I'll click on activate. You'll see that it will start to activate everything and give you a message indicating that it's happening. You'll also see that a few things will take a few moments to come online. Most things that you need will turn on right away, and include paid functionality like advanced lambdas or advanced registration, but a few things, like if you have a license with threat detection, it might take time to download the data we need to make that feature set work. If you have breach password detection, it will take a moment to download that. But by and large, now I've activated my license, activated Reactor, and I am good to go. The last thing to cover just briefly is I did everything with ClickOps. It is also an option to use our APIs. Specifically, if you are using a CI/CD pipeline, this might come in handy. You can basically do the same thing I did to Click, except you would programmatically call our Reactor endpoint and give us your license ID or the actual license. So happy integrating, and thanks for choosing FusionAuth.